Yo everybody, Buster Green here. So yesterday I saw Gundam G-Quax, the beginning. I can finally say Quax now. I finally understand the Quax and what it means. Overall, I loved it, but it wasn't as good as it could be because it was a very mixed bag of unexpected items. So right on the bat, I wasn't expecting it to remind me a very lot of FLCL and ZZ Gundam, but let's get into it. Okay, so to break G-Quax down, the theatrical cut is divided into these two completely different segments. There's the 1 Year War story at the beginning, and then the first two episodes of the Machu Shuji Nyan show. More literally, that is the 0079 section and the 0085 section. And my biggest problem, I would say, is that the theatrical cut was just too short to really satisfy me, especially because they split it that way. Like, if they had given us just a little bit more of the Char story or a little bit more of the Machu story, I probably would have said this movie was perfect, but instead it's a little bit of a 50-50 split, and the split is really weird because it doesn't give you a satisfying chunk of either story to fully make you happy. So I'm overall coming out of this movie just feeling like I want more and I'm kind of hungry. It's very much a double feature. It feels like there's these two pieces of two different animes that are both a little too short and don't quite fit together right. It felt like you have two Char episodes that tell an almost complete story, but with a lot of holes along the way. And then you get two Machu episodes that just tell you the bare ass beginning of who the heck Machu is and what the heck she's doing. All right, let's talk about the beginning. Major spoilers from here on out. You've been warned. So, G-Quax the beginning is the whole 1 Year War AU where Char wins the original Gundam scenario. This is literally Shin Gundam presented by Hideaki Anno, and I fucking love this. This is a miracle. It's a miracle that we're finally getting what's the closest we're about ever going to get to a 0079 movie in a theater. And yeah, I was so fucking happy watching this. So obviously it starts with Char, Slender, Denim attacking the colony. Except yeah, it's swapped out Char for the a-hole Jean, who single-handedly lost Zeon the entire war. So yeah, Char takes initiative and steals the Gundam, and then it becomes Char's Gundam. Now people have given the Gundam some shit for its design, but in the film it's actually really terrifying. It's got a little bit of the Evangelion's horrific crazy energy, and the way it moves is also super uncanny. It moves exactly like a robot and not at all like a human. Like, if you've seen Turn 8 Gundam, I feel like Turn 8 Gundam was the only previous Gundam series that tried to tap into this at all. Otherwise, it actually moves a lot like the Yokohama Gundam. If you guys remember the Yokohama Gundam, the way it moves, that's the way the Gundam in G-Quax moves. There's also a blink and you'll miss a cameo of Temray and Captain Paulo on the white base. Captain Paulo instantly gets annihilated by Char. Now, what really sucks, unfortunately, about the Char section is it just moves at such a breakneck pace that there's never enough time to really be impressed or enjoying with it, because they really just skip through the broad strokes of the 1 Year War and just these are all the events that are the most different. So yeah, after Char steals the Gundam, he immediately goes into space and fights the 01 Gundam. That was actually pretty cool. But then the timeline starts flipping ahead like wildly. We get dialogue that Garma quit the war. Then there's another skip, and there's this really super interesting scene where Char and Dr. Flanagan go to this space museum on Granada, and Flanagan tells Char that he's a new type, and everyone knows it, and that there's going to be consequences. By the way, it's the Indian Dr. Flanagan, in case you're wondering. Char takes advantage of this by recruiting Shalia Bull, the only other known new type in the Zeon army, and they have this alliance out of nowhere. There's this weirdly intimate scene that basically shows the two of them getting drunk and becoming friends, and Shalia basically vows loyalty to Char on the basis that the two of them will overthrow the zombie family and establish some sort of new type supremacy. I really like this, actually. It reminded me of the time he got drunk with Amuro and Zeta. It had some light nostalgic vibes. So anyway, then there's another time skip. I want to mention that there's not a ton of Char using the Red Gundam. You only really get to see him use it the time he fights the 01, and then there's another moment where they explain that he installed bits on it. But it's massively implied that removing the Gundam and the white base from the 1 Year War made a massive difference especially psychologically on the Xeon. It also allowed all their key commanders to live longer. Like, if you guys saw Requiem for Vengeance, it's like kind of almost the opposite of that in a funny way. But yeah, so Char installs the Elmeth bits on the Gundam and then uses it to attack Solomon like the Elmeth did. And that's probably the best scene in the movie. Like, Char using the bits is like just fucking visually impressive. Best scene in the movie. It literally gave me chills. Then I also have to mention in the movie that all of the mobile suits are depicted at a level of realism that I've just absolutely never seen them at before. And this really comes down to Anno's OCD about like the way things work. Like, all the mobile suits have these like new monitors that resemble fighter jets. They have realistic HUDs and readouts. Like, they have like LCD readouts places. And there's like footage that like shows the Battle of Solomon filmed like it was the fucking Iraq War on like old blurry cameras. And I fucking love that. Like, the only thing I can ever think of in my mind that I could even like begin to compare that to was there was this Gundam Fix art book by Hajime Katoki, where Hajime Katoki tried really, really hard to make photos of Gunpla look like real photos. But yeah, because of this additional care Anno put into, it's like seriously the most realistic Gundam ever. But nothing aside from the mecha designs really clashes at all with the classic Gundam. And yeah, that alone was like so like fucking satisfying for me. Then there's another time skip again, and they go to the end of the war. Luna 2 gets defeated by Makube using an army of mass production big Zams. Lol. Then they go to the final battle, which in this version of the war, the final battle is the Federation colony drops Solomon on Granada to try and take out Cassilia. And we get a lot of shots of Cassilia basically betting it all on Char, which is kind of hilarious contextually when you consider that he killed her in the original timeline. But yeah, then the final battle is just so fucking crazy beautiful. Now, Shalia Bull never really impresses me. He's got the Brabro, but for the most part, he just drives around in it. Now, there's some really incredible shots of it just driving around in it. But then, of all fucking things, Dren actually made me cry. Fucking Dren of all people? I don't even remember what happened to Dren in the original Gundam. Like, did Amuro just kill him during that one Rick Dom battle? But you see Dren in this movie almost single-handedly win the one-year war. And I don't know why, but that was so goddamn moving to me. It was like, you fucking piece of shit loser, you actually did it? I don't know why that meant so much to me, but it was like seeing Charlie Brown finally kick the football after all these years. Oh, also, Toquan is in the final battle. Anyone remember Toquan, the Zaccarello guy? So yeah, he has a Rickdom, which is a random novelization come out. I could only see Toquan's Rickdom for a half second, but it reminded me a lot of like the Muddo Wuddo from Turn A compared to the Boundock, because it looked the same, but it looked smoother. And it had kind of like a hot rod look. It like looked like super aerodynamic, and it was like green. And I'm not sure if all the Doms are green in this timeline, or if maybe that was just Toquan's custom color scheme. But that was the only Dom I saw in the entire movie. So anyway, Char and Shalia and Dren and everybody go inside Solomon, where Char gets attacked by Sayla, which really messes him up. And then Char seemingly dies while having the new type communion that Amuro had with Lala. And as Char dies, he says Lala's signature line that I can see time. Okay, now this is probably the most important part of the movie, but it's also really, really vague and really disturbing the way it's seen. Because you don't see it from Char's perspective, you see it from Shalia Bull's perspective, where Shalia Bull has no fucking idea what's happening, just that Char is being like disintegrated. Now, Cassilia, meanwhile, mentions that the Rose of Sharon has escaped. Reading between the lines, I'm guessing the Rose of Sharon is Lala Soon, because the Elmeth had like various weird nicknames like that. And potentially because the timeline is messed up and a bunch of things are renamed, Cassilia's dialogue makes it really sound up that Lala in this timeline might not have been human. Like, she might have been experimented on, she might have been a cyber new type. I don't know if any of you guys have played Gundam the Blue Destiny, but in that game there's a Xeon pilot named Marion Welch who, if I recall my lore correctly, got like dissected to make the exam system for the Blue Destiny GM and the Ifrit custom. It's possible that Lala has been dissected or something. Cassilia is super vague about it, and I have no idea what's going on. But yeah, maybe the Rose of Sharon is something like the exam system? Or she might have been like some other fucked up non-human thing. Like, I'm just thinking of like the Rays from Evangelion, or like maybe she was like some sort of like cyborg. I don't really know. It's just like the vague and disturbing way Cassilia alludes to her makes it sound like this otherworldly thing. Anyway, a lot of the new shit in G-Quax is like a remix of content from the novels or Tomino's Cut series note. So I'm really guessing by the musical cues that the Rose was Lala. They also play the same musical cues from like Lala in Encounters in Space. Anyway, so Char and what I think was Lala have this Psychomu meeting that causes incredible feedback in the Psychomu system in the Gundam to where it ultimately explodes, and this is called a Zek Nova. Now, when I had like read up about this, I interpreted it as something like the Axis Shock from Char's counterattack, but it's more of like a direct Psychomu explosion. I think it's a little bit similar to like what the Double Zeta Gundam was able to do with its particle cannon at the end of Double Zeta, but the Gundam just straight out explodes. By the way, later, Machu has a really, really weirdly specifically Double Zeta energy, so I'm going to be talking about Double Zeta a lot from here on out, but we'll get into that later. So yeah, anyway, the Char episode ends with Char essentially dying. It's extremely highly implied he died from this. I think either he died or he might have become like a permanent Psychomu Gundam ghost like Rita from Gundam Narrative. And then we go into the Machu section, which gave me absolute whiplash, if I'm being honest with you guys. Now, like, the Char part of G-Quax was so fucking good, man. That was like fucking heaven for me. That was seriously my happy place. Zeon finally won the war, and it was like some of the realest Gundam content I've ever seen in my life. On top of that, all the sound effects and the music were straight out of the original Gundam. So yeah, it was straight up Shin Gundam. Like, if you've ever heard the original Gundam soundtrack, I swear to God, I've listened to the original Gundam soundtrack like probably 1,000 times since I was 16, and I've never heard it played so fucking perfectly. Like, if you guys remember all that heavenly shit Anno did for like the classic Godzilla tracks in Shin Godzilla, where he brought back like all that music and it sounded better, he does the same thing for the Gundam OST here. And like, yeah, like I'm like borderline like willing to see G-Quax again tomorrow just to listen to the soundtrack again. But okay, change the lights. Now we gotta talk about Machu. Okay, let's move on to Machu the movie. Now, yeah, literally me and kind of like everyone got major whiplash going into the Machu section because instantly you go from the finest Gundam animation ever put to film to all of a sudden you're in FLCL. It's cheap, but it's the fucking unmistakable flavor from FLCL. All over me, I wasn't expecting that, and I'm not sure I wanted it. Like, the second section, I guess, is like our taste of the greater G-Quax series, but it tastes so much like FLCL, and like instantly my happy Gundam nostalgia all washed away, and I was like, FLCL? I wasn't expecting FLCL today, but it's so undeniably FLCL, except it's not FLCL 2 because it doesn't have the pillows, but it's definitely got FLCL's teen angst, and it's like almost like FLCL but without the jokes, almost like reverse anti-FLCL. Machu has that like weird explosive sexiness that Haruko had, and then there's that weird undeniable rhythm that FLCL had, and that's definitely there. And it's crazy because like I don't even think some of the FLCL sequels had that rhythm, but G-Quax does, except it does it wrong, because like every time like I can feel like the rhythm of FLC like breathing through this piece, I'm expecting like a weird meta breaking cool joke like FLC did. But Quax isn't funny, so it doesn't do that. Machu is kind of funny, Shuji is kind of funny. Nyan I ultimately felt kind of awful for, because she's just like this really miserable kid that's kind of fucked over. But anyway, I'm like suddenly realizing that if this show is based on FLCL, Machu is like you combined Haruko and Nato together to make like this OP like female protagonist. Probably the funniest character in the movie is Shalia's assistant girl, who's basically just like a Xeon flavored one-to-one copy of What's-Her-Face from FLCL. But yeah, it's like FLCL had these like rhythms where it was like drama, reality, and then there'd be a fourth wall breaking meta joke about like the anime industry and like nostalgia. Whereas in Quax, it does the same thing. It's got the drama and the reality beats, but then instead of like getting a joke, you get horrific war crime committed by corrupt cops. Like, I'll be honest, I really talked about this with other people in the theater after the fact, and the audience consensus was that the stylistic whiplash between the Char section and the Machu section was so jarring that it borderline like made people uncomfortable, like it was hard to swallow. Now, I knew it was going to happen, so I got through it, but for other people in the theater, they were more like, what the fuck just happened? Where'd my movie go? Some people even said that it felt like a bait and switch because you go from like absolutely the purest cut Gundam to the goofy adventures of Machu, the murderous goober. Anyway, that's the show we're getting, and I'm expecting the show to be pretty interesting, but I definitely just would have been a lot happier if there was more of the Char section, or maybe we need more of the Machu section too, because I feel like there just wasn't enough Machu for me to like really like soak in Machu. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, the movie's just a little bit imperfect because there wasn't enough movie to it. Like, this movie's number one biggest problem is it just tells two stories and doesn't give you enough time with either story. Okay, so moving past the weird backwards FLCL vibes, the weird style change behind us, let's start to talk about G-Quax, the new show that we're getting, and what is all set up. So the first scene is probably my favorite scene in the Machu section, where we really get introduced to Machu, and Machu is fucking crazy. That's why I'm going to keep coming back to. Machu is fucking crazy. This batshit crazy little girl protagonist. She's really interesting because she's only got really two modes. She's either fucking crazy or she's a classic Showa mecha hot-blooded pilot who's gonna fuck some shit up. Now, she's introduced as basically almost a quirky manic pixie dream girl. Like, she's very quirky and surprisingly sexy in this way that I wasn't expecting, but when you put her in a mobile suit, all of a sudden she transitions to batshit insane, get a robo, hot-blooded, I'm gonna fucking kill you mode. Now, Machu's introduction was mainly revealed in the first trailer, but compared to the trailer and compared to the way it's presented in the movie, you get this additional sense of this like frustrated madness out of her. And it's really hard to like put a finger on what her problem is. She might just be this angsty 16-year-old girl eager for like life as an adult, but she's definitely having this like borderline rejection, if not a melancholy, to her life as a space noid. And her dialogue is so vague and like artistic that you can kind of interpret it that, oh, she's just really quirky, or oh, she's just so frustrated with the status quo. And that's definitely like the Fooly Cooliness of it all. It's definitely like monologue from Fooly Cooly about like nothing ever happens here. But then with the skill of the colony, it's like really well described in Quax that Machu's weird behavior could also be this interpretation and this form of claustrophobia for being trapped inside the colony. But yeah, this first scene is literally the first scene from Fooly Cooly again. And I'm like, oh, Fooly Cooly. I was expecting Fooly Cooly today. So anyway, then Quax basically covers two main storylines. There's Machu's storyline and Shalia Bull and the Zeon forces. It's 0085, and the story starts in Neutral Colony Side 6. Side 6 was a big colony at the end of Mobile Suit Gundam, but you never really got back there in Zeta. So Side 6 has now like established its own like free government. It's got its own Zaku's now because like the Federation collapsed, and then I guess Zeon sold Zaku's everywhere after the war. There's this really nice new detail to the lore that all the civilian Zaku's have blue mono eyes, and the mono eye color indicates if the weapon safety is on. If the weapon safety is on, the mono eye turns blue. If it's turned off, it turns red because now they're in murder mode. It's definitely the safety on a gun, and that's a cool little additional piece to the lore. Now, Shalia Bull is out there trying to still find the Red Gundam after 5 years, and he's seemingly trying to find Char because I guess like he like had this like intense respect for Char for like getting him out of his funk and like giving him his career. But the Red Gundam is giving me like serious narrative Gundam Phoenix Hunt vibes. And I really think if Char is around in G-Quax, he's going to be a ghost or something. Meanwhile, we get a bit of what's going on with the colony. So Machu is just this quirky girl who hates everything and has no friends. But even then, she doesn't give a fuck about that because she's just like this little ball of anger existing until Nyan accidentally passes her this mobile suit weapons activation hard drive during like a cross meeting in the street. And getting this like illegal item like tantalizes her for like this like life of criminality that like could ensue. Machu and Nan eventually become acquaintances. A lot of people are instantly shipping them, but it seems like they kind of hate each other. Like overall, they're definitely not friends yet. Nan seems like this absolutely desperate girl who's like stuck in a life of crime. And Machu is meanwhile just this bored little freak who wants to have a life of crime. And Machu like antagonizes Nyan for like breaking her cell phone. And so anyway, Machu takes possession of Nyan's hard drive and then blackmails Nyan to take her to the Pomeranians. The Pomeranians are this like illegal clan battle gang, and we don't get too much of the Pomeranian gang, but they have this really intense double Zeta kid gang energy. Like, it feels like the kids from Shangri-La all over again. The main leader lady has this white Haro that she treats like a cat, and it comes with the hat that Machu steals later. And hey, remind me, wasn't the original Haro made by Amuro Ray? Did Amuro Ray just become like a Haro manufacturer in this timeline? Anyway, so meanwhile, Xavier launches in the G-Quax because the Char's Gundam has been seen around the colony. And so he launches to try and find it, but then he pisses off the colony police. And the colony police have these black Zaku's. So they're trying to arrest Xavier, but then Xavier goes to hide in the sewer, and that's where the crazy shit starts. Because the police just start like brutalizing the colony. They literally start ripping the roofs off people's houses, trying to find Xavier and his big fucking Gundam that wouldn't be inside a house anyway. So anyway, like, Machu just is completely overcome with like rage or like the urge to survive or the rage to fight the police. Like, I'm honestly not sure what her motivation was, but she goes absolute batshit crazy with absolute urgency and potential bloodlust. She ends up teaming up with the Zaku pilot Jesse, but concludes after like 4 minutes of like sitting back seat with him that his Zaku fucking sucks and fuck him. So what ends up happening is there ends up being this huge standoff between the police, Xavier, who for some reason has exited his Gundam, the Zaku that Jesse was in, and in the chaos of it all, Machu runs out of the Zaku, runs down the road, and steals the Gundam while Xavier is being interrogated by the police. And then Machu goes absolutely fucking hot-blooded nuts and kills a fucking cop on the spot. So yeah, G-Quax's initial story spark is Machu stealing a fucking Gundam and using it to immediately kill a cop. Glad we're back to bold creative storytelling in anime again. Now, it's definitely a kill or be killed situation against a trigger-happy cop. Machu says that out loud, but it's very reminiscent of like when Camille Badan attacked that fascist cop who beat him up in Zeta. But then it rounds out in this weird way that it still feels like double Zeta with that very pissed off youth versus a fascist government energy. And so yeah, Machu runs full speed into committing murder where she could have just easily ran away, but she wanted to punish the fucking cops because the cops are fascists and fuck them. So anyway, it feels like Xalia and his Zeon team are being set up as the good guys, but I have no idea because technically Machu and the Pomeranians are this whole separate force. Machu and the Pomeranians could turn into the Ayug in the series. They could be against Zeon, and we could have double Zeta playing out all over again. I don't feel like there was any indication that the Ayug exists in this movie, but the Ayug could be out there for all I know because there's enough random factors in play that could recreate the Ayug or some variation of it that was just an anti-Zeon army group, you know? Anyway, the Pomeranians at this time could either stay neutral or join up with this hypothetical Ayug faction I'm imagining. So anyway, the Quax gets taken in by the Pomeranians, and now the Pomeranians are essentially like your main team of like the Gundam team shielding the Quax. Machu willingly joins up with the Pomeranians, but for mixed reasons. She kind of wanted to, but she also states that she's rightfully paranoid that they could turn her into the police for being a cop killer.
He's a cop killer.
And also, no one can pilot the Gundam, so they need her. We also get some more world building that Side 6 is in a complete state of poverty and economic stagnation, because even though Zeon won the war, Side 6 stayed a neutral country and never really joined up with Zeon. So Zeon basically, as far as I know, established this like oligarchy in space with the Zeon sitting against the other colonies in like an economic hardship kind of position. So the Space Noids, especially in Side 6, feel oppressed by the Zeon Space Noids, who supposedly are doing better. Now, somehow the war wasn't able to fix that lingering initial inequality and infrastructure and the difficulty of space life. But then again, I kind of get this too. Like, Side 6 did not help Zeon, so why would they be entitled to the spoils of the war? Anyway, in the next episode, we get a lot more of Xalia Bull throwing his weight around. Xalia suddenly becomes way more active than the Machu storyline for the second episode, and I officially really start to respect Xalia Bull in episode 2. Like, you really didn't get enough of Xalia in the Char episode, and it's really the end of episode 2 where Xalia comes into his own. He like drives the white base into Side 6. It's a super ballsy move, but he's like, well, you guys are pacifists, right? Are you going to try to stop me? Why would you stop me if you're pacifists? He starts negotiating with Cameron Bloom to try and get Xavier back and figure out what's going on. Now, yeah, Cameron Bloom shows up, everyone's favorite Jew, Cameron Blue. Yay. It feels like it's a senseless cameo, but it's a cool cameo, but it's a very nothing happens cameo. Like, I borderline felt like clapping, like when like everyone clapped for Bucky in Civil War, just because it was such a silly cameo. Anyway, Shalia negotiates with Cameron to get Xavier released, and I guess he and Cameron fake Xavier's immigration forms to undo the problem of Xavier being a captured illegal alien. And then we find out, interestingly, that Xavier is a former Federation pilot who switched sides when Zeon won the war. So that's a cool twist, because that sets up that potentially we might get more cameos of original timeline Federation crew as Zeons. Meanwhile, then we go back to the Machu Nyan drama. So we go back to Nyan for a bit. Nyan's being used as a courier for the mob. She's going along with it because she's desperate for money. But then we also find out that after episode 1, someone gave her a black eye for helping Machu. And then randomly this like goon threatens that if she doesn't get this one right, they're probably going to kill her. So Nan delivers like, I want to say, another Gundam piece of like technology to like Shuji. And Machu just happens to be there like running into Shuji. Nachu and Shuji are being drawn together because they're both new types. Shuji is this like broke graffiti artist who's for some reason in possession of Char's Gundam. And he's definitely a new type. He's got like unmistakable, weird, crazy, Lala energy. He's definitely your cliche Gundam, manic, spacious new type, except like he's a boy and Machu's a girl. But they definitely have like kind of like the Amuro Lala dynamic from like Encounters in Space. By the way, everyone was bullshitting that Machu was Hammond and Nyan was Lala. And after this episode, I'm going to say that's absolute crap. But after this episode, I'm going to actually say there is a 20% chance that Shuji is a Scirocco variant, but the only way it would be possible if he was like a completely fucked up Scirocco variant who like completely fucked up his life in every way possible and like went to art school instead of becoming like a fake feminist. Anyway, Shuji is apparently obsessed with trying to paint the new type hallucination phenomena, which is a big interesting twist. So in classic Gundam, new type hallucinations were this like very artistic, confusing, vague thing. But in G-Quax, it's almost explicitly explained that this shit is like almost like a drug-induced hallucination that literally the main characters are seeing when they use their new type abilities. Anyway, so Shuji and Machu team up to do the clan battle so they can get money from winning the clan battle to pay Nyan out of debt from the mob. And so they do the clan battle. They end up fighting the red and blue Zaku's from the concept art book. Now, I want to say these Zaku's are on a team called like the Poison Vipers or something. There was a second where the pilot's name flashed on screen, but there was so much going on that it was too quick for me to read it. But yeah, so that's basically the end of it. Machu and Shuji completely dominate the Zaku's with 2 OP new type Gundams. And yeah, they have this incredibly intense romantic new type connection thing, and it's very hot and steamy. Shalia Bull watches the whole thing go down from this like bar, and he also explains the word Mav to Xavier. The characters use this slang word Mav a lot. Shalia Bull gives this long explanation, and in a nutshell, the word Mav is just a 3-letter word for the buddy system. But more complicatedly, he explains that because of the Minovsky particles, when you see another mobile suit, that mobile suit only has an advantage at the start of combat, and that's only if the mobile suit that sees the other mobile suit is the first mobile suit to make a hit on the other mobile suit. And the MAV system is this like buddy support system that allows pilots to be more on top of each other and more aware of what's going on. So yeah, the movie ends at that point, and Shuji just tells Machu that they gotta run because probably the cops are coming again. And that's where we end right now with the G-Quax storyline. We really only get 2 episodes of G-Quax and this whole like separate Char story. Now, I'll mention some random lore drops that I have like lingering in my brain and I just don't remember where they went in the story. Dolzo Zabli definitely died at Solomon. I think they said Sayla killed him. I believe they mentioned that in 0085, Cassilia and Makube are in charge of Zeon. Giran is mentioned a lot, but only in the 0079 section. So I want to say there's a really big chance that Cassilia might have still killed him and maybe no one ever found out. But yeah, if he showed up later, I wouldn't be surprised either. I have no idea if Sayla escaped from Solomon, but I kind of have this intuition that the show might be playing with Sayla's character a lot. Sayla also technically would be the rightful heir to Zeon if Char is dead. And yeah, Tomino never used Sayla after her original voice actress died, so Sayla's just kind of like a bomb of unused potential in this series. But yeah, they mentioned Makube one more time in the 0085 section. He's definitely in a high-ranking political position, but I forget exactly what they said. I think they said he was like prime minister or something. Anyway, there's a lot of mysteries to untangle here. A ton of cameos are definitely coming in this series. I'm pretty sure Char is going to stay dead in this timeline as far as I can tell. So no Quattro, but if Quattro showed up, I'd probably lose my shit. Anyway, this is a weird movie. It's a combination of like all these deep lore random Gundam tangents. But then Machu, she feels like a fresh character, but she also feels like fucking Fooly Cooley, like distilled into a single character. I do like that her cook is that she killed a fucking cop and that she's trying to like deal with the fact she's a murderer and like trying to cover that up while trying to live a normal life. But then now she's also using the stolen Gundam to enrich herself. And then she's also working through just like your typical teen angst. So yeah, I'm hoping the show gets into more of that classic Gundam drama. But right now, I have no idea where this show is going. The only thing I can take a guess on is that the show reminds me the most of the way Gundam Double Zeta started. Like, it feels exactly like the way Double Zeta started because Machu has that I don't give a fuck energy that Judo had. And like the Pomeranians and her like other friends are all like around that age. And then Shalia definitely has like the bright Noah energy from Double Zeta and like he's got his team. And yeah, I don't know. It reminded me so much of Double Zeta that it could just be a Double Zeta analog where we have the AU fighting Zeon again. But I don't know. Like, I really have no idea where the show is going, like, in the meantime, until we get away from Side 6 and the, like, local drama that's going on. I'm remembering G-Witch again all of a sudden out of nowhere. Like, G-Witch really stuck to the Academy for most of its storyline until the Academy was destroyed. But even then, Soletta never went on any big adventures aside from stopping the final boss. Machu and Soletta are completely different. Like, yeah, they're basically opposites of each other. Anyway, I'm super excited for where Quax is going. There's definitely some greater plan here. I'm just a little let down that the movie, if it was just like even 10 minutes longer, it would have been better because the Char section was so fucking good and so on point and was definitely Shin Gundam. And then the Machu section was just like Gundam Fooly Cooley and not quite as great. I fucking love Machu, but she's this insane fucking mess. She's this gremlin goober, but then when you put her in a Gundam, she suddenly turns into fucking Ryoma Nagare, ready to like kill some fucking cops and go to prison. Honestly, it's so hard to compare her to any previous Gundam characters. Like personality-wise, like the closest I can even compare her to, once again from Double Zeta, is Char Soon, because she's just this woman that gives absolutely no fucks about anything. I don't know why this reminded me so much of Double Zeta though. Like, I don't even like Double Zeta. This is probably the most I've thought about Double Zeta since I finished watching it. Is it just because it's got this like lighthearted Gundam sequel vibes? Or is it because of the cross-contamination from like all the teen angst that came out of Fooly Cooley? The last thing I can say is that so far G-Quax is just telling a local story about Side 6. And there's this really intense focus on the colony that I've never quite seen before. Like I was saying before about the realism that was added to the mobile suits in the Char section. In the Machu section, I want to say 100% of that OCD energy is applied to making the colony seem super realistic in a way that this feels like probably the most realistic colony I've ever seen since like those Sweetwater scenes in like Char's counterattack. But yeah, that's where I'm at with G-Quax. I fucking love the Char section. If the Char section was just a little bit longer, I probably might have ranked this as the best Gundam movie ever made. The Machu section though, I just needed more Machu. I don't know what the fuck she's doing. And all I know is that she's a cop killer and she's like got all these like crazy tangents in her life. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Cause I had a fucking great time with this movie. I just really didn't get enough movie to be happy with. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'm sure a lot of people are probably like super stoked about it. Says it was really fucking fun. Probably the funnest movie I've seen all year so far. Good night, everybody.